Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me here. This is Unnecessary Rambling. I am Brandon Sylvia. I'm joined by my homie Loon, and we're here to talk about why we don't like Nintendo. That that's
And well,
that's
that's nothing new. But yeah, in a more positive light,
yeah,
we may not enjoy them right now, but what could convince us to buy a Switch too?
absolutely. Yeah, and I give Nintendo shit all the time, but also I think I probably on every episode talk about how I respect the shit out of Nintendo and their just tunnel vision, like fuck everybody, we do what we want attitude. I love that shit about Nintendo. So, anyways, we're talking about Nintendo and we're specifically talking about what could convince two non-Nintendo fans to buy a Switch 2. And this just I really didn't want to set any kind of lay out anything. I just kind of want to shoot off the hip. What would make you buy a Switch 2, Loon? What's the
How
first
many
thing
how many points out of curiosity do you have?
I have? I don't really have anything. I have like just kind of a couple like bullet points wrote down that I feel like I can kind of branch out into multiple different paths.
Because I've got five myself.
Well, hit me with your first.
Um, well, just keeping it simple. Games, just games that appeal to me that aren't platformers or like Mario properties and stuff like that. Like I don't Zelda even. I don't really care for the stuff like that. They don't
Yeah.
have something that grips me in. Like the closest thing they had, and now they're losing that would be Shin Megami Tensei. That's now releasing on everything else. That was like the only thing that was alluring to me. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have sold my Switch. Now I feel very, very happy that I did.
Yeah. I'm in a similar boat where like of course I respect the Nintendo first party. I mean, Nintendo first party absolutely shits on PlayStation and Xbox in terms of consistency and quality. Like out the gate, no doubt about it. But for me and for you, seemingly, like those games just really don't move the needle for us personally. And I miss the days, man, where the GameCube was so tempting because you're talking about, for me personally, as a wrestling fan, you had your Day of Reckonings and your WrestleMania games on there, and you had your Resident Evil 4s that was a timed exclusive, and Zero and Remake, and like, which Zero and Remake, they didn't come to other consoles until like the 360 era, right? Seventh gen. So like those were actual exclusives for that generation. Um, so yeah, like I just want to be I want to see something like that again from Nintendo. And you saw like Astral Chain last generation, Ultimate Alliance 3, Deadly Premonition 1 and 2,
Bayonetta 3.
Bayonetta. Yep, 100%. Bayonetta was like a big one that got me in. And I enjoyed Bayonetta 3 for what it was worth, but I definitely would have rather played that on a, you know, like real console. Um, and so it, I guess that kind of does. We'll stay with games right now because that we definitely I do want to talk about hardware a little bit as well because it's hard for me to want to play games on the Switch. But we'll get to that. I do think that you know if we saw an Astral Chain 2 as a launch title, a Metroid Prime 4 would even be interesting to me. Um, I would be so down because we know just staying in the hardware space, we know it's not going to be the most powerful piece of machinery. I imagine it'll be about the same power as like a base PS4 or something. Like that would be more than I could ever expect from Nintendo.
But that'd be more than it would need, to be fair.
So for me, like if it was the same power as a base PS4, and like what if we got, you know, a Ultimate Spider-Man style exclusive game where it's cartoony, or I guess Spider-Man's exclusive to PlayStation. Like the Hulk Ultimate Destruction. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Like that would be so sick to fucking make the Hulk red. Just tie it to Nintendo. Have the Red Hulk smash. Like there's cool
Or
ways of
Mario hat.
right. Yeah. I don't know. I just new IP is a big thing for me, and I know you're not gonna send out your premiere teams to go and work on something experimental and fresh. But like, I don't know, games like Eternal Darkness from the GameCube era and Geist, like it felt like they just had more. And the Capcom initiative that they had rolled out were like, was it Killer 7? Was it
Yeah,
Piano 3 or whatever? Like they had those
yeah.
unique exclusive titles. I don't know. I could go on and on, but games absolutely for sure. That's going to be the main driver for everybody. But I'm with you. Just something that's a little bit more adult centric, just a few things.
No, absolutely. And not shunning. I don't know who this is that is the like they had such bad relationship of third party content for the Nintendo Wii and the Wii U. That only just seem to be recovering in like the late life cycle of the Switch, of landing like The Witcher 3 and stuff like that. It's taken so long. Like you need these third party titles to survive. Like, yeah,
Well,
first party is all well and good, but the big money makers throughout the year is just having consistent third party just taking your cut
will
month on
they
month.
do you think they'll be able to run on the Switch too? Like, do you think a Star Wars Outlaws could
If
even run on a Switch too?
if it's a PS4 like base model, there's plenty of games that can be heavily scaled back, like resolution wise. Like The Witcher 3 runs on a Switch. So you're telling me if that can then become as powerful as a base PS4, absolutely. It would just have to take a few hits here and there in resolution and graphical settings, and then yeah, I don't see why
Yeah,
something like Outlaws couldn't work.
because they say Hogwarts Legacy kind of runs okay on this.
Mm,
Not good, but like not
playable.
yeah. Which is all you can really expect or hope for, with the Switch too, is to have some third party games that are at least playable that are actually impressive. Um, because I
Yeah, that
don't,
was also one of the points as well of just needing more power. So that ties in with you saying like PS4 base
yeah.
as the
Well,
foundation power wise.
what are you hoping for power wise, performance wise? Like, is it, are you hoping for a solid 60 on most games? Are you hoping for 1080p across the board? Like, what would your hopes even be?
I had such a bad experience with the Switch. Like its frame rate was atrocious on so many games. Like whatever you can get the game from just not stuttering, whether that's
Yeah.
30, 60, whatever. Just stability, man. That's all I would like stability. I'm not one of them people who are like it has to be 60 or nothing or 120 or nothing and stuff like because it's just not realistic. Not realistic even on a Series X right now to hit 60 on most games.
Well, let me ask you this. If we're totally in delusional land here, what would you, if you could wave a magic wand, one wish, if you could wave that wand, would you just make Nintendo a straight up console and just ditch the handheld aspect? Because that's obviously the thing that's holding it back, is they have those two SKUs and they have to like blend it into one.
How many people actually use it for its like full handheld purpose? Is what I would love to know. Like, there's the majority of people that I've spoken to and that use it, they just use it dock. So you're using it as a normal console anyway. It just, it's this thing again. Nintendo love gimmicks. They're doing both, but they're not doing either one at 100%. It's you're sacrificing both modes so that you can give the people options. I just, yeah, in the most ideal world, I probably would just prefer a normal console.
Without a doubt, me too. Because I think if they went normal console route, like the GameCube wasn't much less powerful than the PS2. It was a good bit less powerful than the Xbox, but it wasn't like most games could be played on a GameCube, third-party releases. And I hate to keep going back to the GameCube, but that's probably my favorite Nintendo console of all time. Um, and it was gimmicky as well with the little itty bitty discs and shit. Like they had the little itty bitty
They
lunchbox
always
here.
have to have a gimmick, and that's what worries me moving forward. If they ever did like a normal console, Are you gonna like bring back motion controls just to have that as like a gimmick again? Like, just make something normal. Like, I'm sorry, like I don't need the gimmick. It doesn't do anything. Like VR doesn't move the needle for me and stuff like that. Like I just want controller in your hands and just give a good experience, and that's it. I'm happy.
It's like, in my opinion, because we know Nintendo, obviously, they're going to go the handheld route. They're going to have, I mean, it's one of the best selling pieces of hardware ever. You know what I mean? It's incredibly, incredibly popular. So the versatility, I get it. I get it. But like, if we can just get docked 1080 60, that will be that'll be compelling to me. That'll be very, very compelling to me if that console can get docked 1080 60. Now, do you think there's any, I know that it'll never happen, but I'm just throwing it out there. Like, what if there was a way to access, your Steam library, or a way to access Game Pass, or it's never going to happen. But that would be very, very, very appealing to me. Where if, okay, this thing can run at 1080 60 and you actually can play fucking Kingdom Come 2 on it or something. Like,
Yep. It's what makes the Steam Deck so compelling
yes,
because you have not just, it's not like Steam isn't a closed system, not a closed ecosystem. The Steam Deck, you can install GOG on it, install whatever you want on it. It's all open. Xbox has the initiative of Play Anywhere. So if you purchase a Play Anywhere game, you can play it on PC, therefore you can play it on a Steam Deck. Simple as that. So yeah, no, that's a hell of a lot more appealing. Do I think they would ever do it? I don't know about that one. I don't. Are there any streaming services on the Switch at the moment
I don't
other
think
than their
so.
Nintendo based stuff? Like,
Yeah,
there's no Ubisoft Plus, there's no EA Play, there's none of that.
I don't believe so. I don't think they have any third party subscriptions available. I could be
So,
wrong.
I mean, to my knowledge, they don't, and that is very much them. That's a them move. Like it fits with what they want to do, and it's just everything is closed, and they want power over everything, which, credit to them, it works for them.
It does. They want power over everything, but not in their console. No power, no power in their console. What's your second bullet point that you wanted to touch on though? I got one more that I'm really, really, really curious about, but we'll go with yours first. What's your second bullet point?
So this isn't the second, but this would be like the second priority. Just the feel of it. Oh my God, I cannot stand the rectangular, crappy nature of the Switch. Like it just doesn't. It feels horrible to hold. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like the quality of the sticks doesn't feel right. The buttons just feel they just don't do it for me.
Well, that
It
was the
needs a
thing.
peripheral overhaul, like big time.
When I was showing you this, it's like to me, that's like ideal handheld, a
Yeah.
controller and then a screen. Like that's all I really need. Just a control. I don't need them to be combined. That's the thing that wasn't appealing to me about the Steam Deck as well.
Just look at like I'm the only positive light I'll throw towards that PlayStation Portal thing. That
It's just a
have
PlayStation
that.
controller.
Yeah, exactly. Just do that. Just have it as an actual system, though. You don't need the snapping off crap. Just have that be that.
Yeah, that is such a
And
funny
oh my God,
design.
and change the fucking charging port. Why is it on the bottom? And what lunatic world, like on the top, for Christ's sake, so that if you're laying in bed, you can play with it. Plug that. Oh,
Right.
that pissed me off so much. You're bringing back memories. I only had the thing for like a month.
There's no Bluetooth either, is there? Like, so you can't like connect your Bluetooth headphones, I don't think.
I don't. I like I said, I only had it for a month, so
Right.
I,
Yeah,
I didn't dabble too much with it.
that's a funny ass device, man. That is a fun because they're most like Netflix and shit. You can't watch Netflix and YouTube, I don't think, on there. I could be wrong. I hardly ever use the thing, but it was so archaic. Regardless, we'll talking positive things that would make us buy the Switch 2. Get YouTube, get Netflix, get the apps up and running on there because that's actually kind of cool. A slightly bigger screen to be able to watch it on. You got I'm trying to find use case scenarios for it, but there's really not a ton if I'm being honest for
Just
the handheld, in
do
my
what
opinion.
Xbox set out to do, the media all-in-one thing. Make it the thing that can do everything
Yeah.
and do it well, you know.
Well, tying to Xbox with their backwards compatibility, does Switch 2, do you think it's going to be backwards compatible? Does it matter if Switch 2 is backwards compatible?
I think it's going to be the first time in history they're ever going to get like universal flack if it doesn't support backwards compatibility. Do you understand how much money people have sunk into limited run copies of Switch games? They're up to like
Yeah,
what, 600 prints or something crazy of like Switch games, maybe more. Like if they had the balls to just announce that and be like, yeah, and you can't put any Switch cartridges in, like, I think that might be the beginning tipping point for Nintendo fans because that's a lot of money. They're not cheap. This is the thing as well. This isn't like a PS4 collection where you're picking up Nintendo like games for like
right.
10, $15. Like Twitch games stay at 60, drop to
Yes.
50, lowest 40. Like
Dude,
that's a lot of money that
it
is just going to
is.
become extremely redundant because the difference between the longevity of like a Nintendo 64 and other like their peripherals could like sustain that wear and tear. Your Joy-Cons are made of glass. Like these Joy-Cons will break after like 3 years consistently. They get so consistent with drift and they just break down. So yeah, it's going to be very expensive, like replacing them things. So you need to have backwards compatibility moving forward. If they don't,
Yeah.
that I will laugh. I will find it very funny. But then again, they've never really offered backwards compatibility before, really.
Nope. Yeah,
So
other than
why
their like
expect it
virtual
now?
stores. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like to me that's the thing that I'm the most curious about is will it be through some virtual means like through their, Nintendo online program or whatever, or because it's 64 gigabytes per cartridge, right?
I yeah, I have no idea.
I think so. I could be wrong on that. But if it's 64 gigabytes per cartridge, like they don't necessarily need to overhaul to a different format. Most games can fit on that 64 gigabyte range for Nintendo, not obviously like
Well,
PS5 Series X
even the bigger games that we think of now, like when
compressed.
you're when it's compressed and the requirements are heavily lowered, that will bring the file size down. So things that are 100 on certain consoles, you have to cut. Like you're thinking like Hogwarts Legacy, that's already on a Switch. That was a fairly beefy. I think on Series X, that was over 100 gigabytes of data. So it's achievable now, even. So
Does
even
Hog
if like
I wonder if Hogwarts has a cartridge or if it's
that is
just
a good point.
I
I
feel
think
like
I've seen
there's
a
no
Hogwarts
way.
Legacy cartridge. But I could be wrong. I think I've seen it. I
Let's see.
think I've seen it being advertised on like Amazon and stuff, unless that's them using like placeholders and bringing them forward.
Um, yeah, you need a download, but there is a cartridge in it, but you need a download for at least 25 gigabytes. So, hey, uh,
And even Nintendo isn't free of the BS of preservation. They shut them servers off. That Hogwarts Legacy cartridge is worthless.
absolutely. Yeah, it's I maybe it would be nice to upscale a
Yeah,
bit and go with a
bump it
different.
up. You usually
Yeah.
see doubles in stuff as well. When you see like a bump in like memory and stuff, because you think like the 360 like 500 gigabytes, I think is what they got max out of that. I'm not mistaken, towards the end of its life cycle. I think it had, or was it 240? Something like it was in the hundreds, and then you saw obviously the big bump 500 with Xbox One is what I'm thinking of, yeah, and then 1 terabyte with this. So you usually see doubles, and so the PS. 6 will be probably 2 TB.
Well, and so that would put the Switch to 128 gigabytes for a
Yeah, for a
cartridge.
cartridge, I reckon. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be totally fine. Pretty much everything could fit on that. So that'd
At
be
this
great.
moment, though, we got to remember as well is that, it was inconceivable to have 100 GB games 5, 6 years ago.
Totally. I mean, to me, backwards compatibility, that's a deal breaker. If that's not there, like, and I'm not a Switch guy, like I don't own many Switch games other than Deadly Premonition 2. There's a couple other ones that I own. Bayonetta 3, I think I still have a copy of that. I traded in a bunch of my stuff that I knew I'd never play. But yeah, so I think backwards compatibility is a deal breaker to most people because, and that's the thing is if are they going to make it to where your digital library is backed up and your physical, or is it going to be one or the other? Like I'm really curious I think they're going to go both. I think full backwards compatibility, physical and digital, will be available. I'd be really like, they will catch a meteoric ton of
But
shit if it's not.
they've dodged it again and again, though.
That is
Like,
true.
you're talking what was it, the 3DS store was one that recently shut down, and the Wii U store. They didn't care one bit that they were closing down. They were like, so if you saw the amount of backlash PlayStation got for even mentioning the PlayStation 3, they even delayed it.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we won't do that then, guys. And yeah, Nintendo seemed to get away with it a lot. I think Nintendo fans are a different breed to us. They seem to have a lot more acceptance that they will just have to rebuy these games. There's
Yeah.
a little bit of shade to throw in. They do. They repackage and resell games. Again,
Oh, worse than anybody.
yeah,
Worse than PlayStation.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So that's just the norm to them. So it's nothing new. Whereas to us, we're looking at it like you just sunk like $1,000 worth of a games library, and you're gonna tell me it's redundant?
What do you
Cool.
think? I know this is much more your lane, so I'm very curious to get your opinion on it. What do you think about like a trophy system, achievement system?
That's that was my third point.
Okay,
So that's
cool.
perfect. I think it needs one, but I don't think they care.
I don't
They
either.
themselves, they don't give a damn at all about like a system like that because they want their infrastructure to be as minimal as possible. They don't want to have to upkeep something longer because I think I remember seeing like, what is it, like an 8 year cycle, 10 year cycle before they usually cut off the online stores for their stuff. Like the Wii had that cycle, the 3DS had that cycle. They don't want to support these things. Like you're seeing Microsoft and Sony being backed into these corners of because they would also love to just cut it in an ideal world. Like as much as Phil Spencer sits there and says, yeah, preservation and everything. Do you understand how much easier it would be to just destroy everything and just make its own ecosystem, destroy it, make it so like the amount of stress that probably causes to have everything functioning on some degree together.
Yeah, none of these motherfuckers care about preservation at all.
No, no. So ideally, that would be a big draw for me. Don't get me wrong. Like an achievement system is one of the main reasons that I myself game, obviously, as many people know. Uh, But at the same time, what can they add really to
Just
differentiate
copy.
themselves? Uh, I don't think that's enough though. Of like a draw for me, like it can't like Xbox needs to overhaul its achievement system in my view. It needs to be changed. PlayStation is fairly strong. Steam's achievements are complete whack. It has some interesting elements with certain things, but other than that, it's a fairly weak system. So they would need something.
I, for me, like the idea of being able, because I don't, it's, I don't really, I don't care about achievements a ton or trophies a ton, but I do have like this wonder because I feel like I never really got to get at, I never really got to approach achievements or trophies on the ground floor. So like my PlayStation 3, my original, like I don't have that account anymore. I had that when I was like, you know, 12 years old, ten years
That's like
old.
memories and history that's been erased. So yeah, because if you would still have that account now, and say you booted it up, and then you flicked all the way down to the end of the list,
Yeah,
you'd be like, "Holy shit, 2007 I played that last. Wow,
exactly.
what did I do? Like, what was it?" And like, "Oh wow, I did all that." And then it'll flood back all the memories and everything.
Well, and it kind of bums me out because I have like a 300. My like little trophy rating is like a 330 or some shit. And it's like, oh man. And it doesn't like, I know in my head, it's like, dude, who cares? But there's a part of me where I'm like, I really wonder if I had all of my PlayStation 3 trophies, if that would be around like four or 500. I know it'd be 400, but I wonder if it'd be somewhere in the 500s. I kind of think it could be. And I'm like, damn, that would be kind of cool. Because I think the 500s when you get like the gold, when you go from silver to
Mm.
gold on PlayStation. So it's like, that's kind of somewhat neat. And then, so I start thinking, like, if I primarily like if the Switch 2 came out and there was just an exclusive wrestling game, a new superhero exclusive, like, and there was just all this shit that was tempting me. And I went over there and was like invested in Switch 2. Because like there's a part of me that really wants to get into Nintendo, be a more heavy like Switch guy because we just talked about nobody cares about preservation. They're the best about preservation, and I love physical media. And so, like that part of me, and I don't think they'll ever leave physical media because their fan base has a strong preference for it. So it's like they're going to continue selling that as long as their fans continue buying it, and their fans will continue buying it. So, like, there's a lot about Nintendo that I want to dive into. And if I could jump in at the ground floor for achievements, for trophies, whatever, I'm like, damn, I wonder if I could be like, I don't know, top 5,000, top 100,000, where top 50,000. Like there is something about that where I'm like, I feel like I could rank kind of high on that list.
Uh, yeah, it depends on how many like crappy, easy 10-minute 100% end up getting ported to the Switch.
That's true, I
Because
guess.
there's hardly any of them right now because there's no the sad thing is they have no reason to exist without an achievement system. So of all the game uh storefronts right now, ironically, the weakest storefront of like power has
The
the less
best.
amount of crap clogging its artery.
That is true. Yeah, and I guess you're right. If it became like an achieve, yeah, because I'd never play that bullshit just to get a fucking little box ticked. But yeah, man, that's pretty much all the Switch 2 related items that really piqued my interest. Did you have anything else?
Um, the only other thing is a hot brand new IP,
Yeah.
like something I'm trying to think of like an example of something that they could probably take a stab at.
Like it
Maybe like an old school like God of War would fit
yes.
really well on like a Switch and have that as like the more, like you said, something more catered towards adults. Have
Yeah.
something more gritty, violent and stuff. And yeah, give me a reason to jump in.
Well, what's old is new, and they've been capitalizing on nostalgia forever. Nintendo has. So, like, dude, imagine some not first party, but like a second party, third party exclusive Grand Theft Auto, like PS2 style Grand Theft Auto game, or
Mm.
like you said, a PS2 God of War, or classic old, third person shooters. I don't. I really do hope that this is kind of that bridge period for Nintendo where it's the Switch seems to kind of primarily be a first party box. I really do hope this opens it up where you get adult, M-rated third party games as well as some exclusive mature rated games and just something that's a little bit more interesting for people like you and I. But to be fair, the Switch is absolutely dominating PlayStation and Xbox in terms of
Yeah, what do we
sales.
know?
Exactly. So
What do we
those
know?
that's it for me though, man. So that was your last one.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like it sounds like a very small list, but they would be massive changes that they would have to do as a company. So
Yeah.
probably not going to happen. But of the five, I think it'll be an interesting thing. Like, what would be the top thing that you would need of all the things that you listed? If you could only have one, what would it be?
Okay, so if we're in total dreamland, I would say, oof, I would say my number one pick would actually be an exclusive wrestling game. I know that's crazy, but like I really, really
That's
want
good towards you. It's not crazy.
yeah.
What you want?
I really want competition back in the wrestling space. As great as 2K has been the last 2 years, I always worry that there's just going to be that return to old 2K and it's going to be dog shit for the next one. So just competition in the wrestling space, a Day of Reckoning, WrestleMania style, new WrestleMania game, something like that, exclusive to the Switch. Just, yeah, I'll say exclusive content that's more catered towards me, like a cool ass Hulk Ultimate Destruction game, a cool retro Grand Theft Auto style game. Damn, I don't know. Even like the Star Wars Clone Wars. I don't know if you remember that game back on the PS2 and like I think 360 as well. Um, but yeah, man, just shit that is slightly different from what we have on the Switch right now. So that would be my number one, just exclusive content. What would be your
For
number one?
me, it would be. Like
What
I'm not like the
what up, little one?
I think for me it would be hopefully
No.
that's not picking up on the
Oh, you
mic.
good, dude. That's
There's-
awesome. But what was your number one if you could only pick one thing?
So, but, it's so difficult to pinpoint something, but like the biggest problem I had, because I reckon I could have just stomached the performance woes. It really does like I can't sit there and be on my high horse and be like, I'm drawing a blank on that now. Breath of the Wild. I saw like massive like frame rate drops. It would be completely disingenuous of me to just like completely have the hammer down and be like, it needs to be like frame rate because I've sat there and played Risen for Christ's sake, where every time I landed a kill, it'd stutter for like 5 seconds. And I was like, yeah, this game, awesome.
Totally.
So peripherals, man, is what why it winds me up the most. Like I hate the PlayStation 5 controller. I need to have the one stick high.
Mm.
Just feels comfortable, just feels right, and just allows for the maximum amount of enjoyment. So if they could land something like that without sacrificing quality as well, because as much as I like the Xbox controllers, for instance, I would take the bumpers of a PlayStation controller any day because they don't break like a Xbox controller does. Like the amount I've never ever in my life spent more money on controllers than I have in the past 2 generations. I'm
Yeah.
talking like every 6 months I'm having to get a new controller because I play Souls legs and it burns through them bumpers, the Xbox One. It's crazy. And when I was playing first person shooters, the left stick would give out and would get major drift.
Yeah. Yeah. I I know that Nintendo leans into like, they have the GameCube controller and the Nintendo 64 controller and the this and the that. And it, I'm not as big of a controller guy. Like I kind of just whatever. I'm cool with PlayStation. I'm cool with Xbox. I'm mostly cool with Nintendo. But you were talking about Zelda, and I've said on the channel before that Tears of the Kingdom would probably be my game of the year if it was on a PlayStation or an Xbox. So there
Yeah.
is something about like it's not necessarily it's about like the buttons being all switched and flopped around and shit for the Switch. I wish
Yeah,
I
their
could just
controller layout is very bizarre. Like
yeah.
having what is it? Where the B button or circle button is located on a controller is like accept and stuff.
Yes.
But that's because originally that's what Japan was. Because even in like a lot of people in Japan are annoyed that PlayStation backtracked on that for every other part of the world because circle is okay and X is no.
Right, right.
So it had significance and a point for why they did them things.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is irritating. I wish I could just reconfigure it because like on most
Yeah.
other controllers you can reconfigure things and it, it's a minor nitpick I guess, but to me it was a huge problem with Tears of the Kingdom, a game I was like loving, but I was just for one, I just the story was dog shit, but like the 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 controller, man, goodness gracious. The if I could have reconfigured that, I think I would have got a lot more. I probably would have finished it. Um, but yeah, so those are our hopes, our wishes for the Switch 2. What could convince two non-Nintendo Switch fans to jump in for the Switch 2? That is our list. Let us know down in the comments below what you want from the Switch 2. What is on your wish list to get for that system when I'm assuming probably 2025. I would guess early 2025, holiday 2025 is when the Switch 2 will drop. I I think I'm not committed to it, but I think I could be easily swayed into picking one up. So we'll see.
Yeah, it was like a lot more work to persuade me.
Well, let us know in the comments down below, guys. How are you feeling about the Switch 2? Is that a day one purchase for you? Thinking about it, debating it. What would make you pick one up if you are in our camp? And yeah, hit us up in the comments. We shall see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
See you later.